A rock star popped my cherry. Age gap breeding 22. Breeding erotica, age gap erotica. Written by Kimmy Welsh. Narrated by Kline. A rock star popped my cherry. Age gap breeding 22. Breeding erotica, age gap erotica audiobook. Being in a band was something that I mercilessly ragged on my boss for when I worked for him. It wasn't something that I thought was particularly cool until I saw him in his element on stage. He'd been performing for so long that he actually had a kind of presence up there. And although his band, Wilted Heart, hadn't yet struck gold, it was only a matter of time before fame found him, I thought. Tonight he was in the relatively small venue of our local town hall. Regardless, hundreds of people had turned out to see him, and the front row of the cheering crowd contained one or two girls that I remember from school, all now 19 years old, like me. I watched as they reached forwards over the barriers, and my old boss, Randy, strummed his guitar up close. Their hands flailed for a touch of him, as though he was a god to them. His bare chest was visible beneath his open jacket, and I watched as one woman managed to stroke down over his pecs. She was utterly beside herself with excitement, looking at her hand as though she was going to cut it off and mount it on her bedroom wall. Randy took it all in his stride. Seeing him as an object of desire started to change my perspective of him. I watched from the side of the room. I wanted to see him, but I didn't want him to know how badly. I found myself becoming jealous of the women he flirted with along the front row, and imagined myself to be one of them. Soon, Randy wasn't just my old boss anymore. Instead, he became the lead singer of Wilted Heart, and I was just another ravenous fan. When he was the boss of the local coffee shop, he hadn't had quite the same appeal. My heart pounded in my chest, and the room seemed to cave in on me. I felt a sudden embarrassment, casting my gaze sheepishly around the room, as though there were people there who could hear my sinful thoughts. At 19, I was still a virgin, and the idea of popping my cherry to a lead singer of a successful band was a fantasy for the ages. It just so happened that the lead singer in question was someone who I kind of knew. I leaned back against the wall in my white tank top and tried to sink back into my fantasy, looking to the stage again and imagining being wooed by Randy, the muscled, confident frontman. The music was loud, and the crowd was just as raucous. But over it all I could hear the beats of lust-filled blood in my ears, surging their way around my virginal body. I stayed there for the entire set, nodding my head at times in a vain attempt to blend into the crowd. After they finished their final song, Randy said his goodbyes to the crowd.
"Thanks for coming out and making some noise,"
he said, as cool as ever. He waved to the crowd, and then his eyes searched through it. They locked, eventually, on me, and I saw the look of recognition strike him. He beckoned me forward with a hand. "Me?" I asked, pointing to my chest. Randy nodded and motioned for me to come to the front. I pushed through the crowd, receiving several bitchy glances and comments on my way through. Most of them were envious, but I imagine they didn't know the full story.
"Hey,"
he cried, and he leaned over the barred gate and pulled me into him.
"Let her through, would you?"
he said to the security guard. He nudged the barrier open, and I squeezed through, feeling a certain sense of pride that I'd escaped the thronging pit of desperate bodies. It was like being hand-picked by the Emperor.
"What the hell are you doing here?"
Randy asked, excited. "I heard you were playing and thought I'd come out to watch," I said, pretending that I didn't worship the ground he walked on.
"Me? You came out to see little old me?"
He laughed. "You were great."
"Ah, you're too kind. You want to come up to my room upstairs and catch up?"
"There are rooms upstairs?"
"Sure,"
he said.
"Come on, I'll show you."
I was a little reticent, but it didn't take me long to change my mind.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?